think it must be. I'm just checking to make sure Kevin's got us squared away. All right. Well, we call this meeting of the Virginia Council on the Interstate Compact on Educational Opportunity for Military Children to order. Welcome to everyone, to council members and our guests. Excited to be with you today. I know a couple of our council members indicated they will be late, so we'll go on and get started with routine matters, and then we'll do maybe a more official welcome here in a moment. Council members, you have the draft minutes from October 2nd. Is there a motion to approve the minutes as presented? To approve. All right, Mr. Williams, second? Second. All right, thank you. We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstaining?
Yes.
Okay.
Sorry.
We have one abstention. Thank you. Next up, we have Purple Star Appeals. Council members, we shared this with you in between the meetings, and pending your final approval, approved appeals to their schools for their Purple Star designation. I'm going to read the list of schools that appealed and then thus subsequently provided additional information that led us to believe that they qualified for the Purple Star Award. With your initial thoughts, we began the process for approval and will issue official approval today. The schools that appealed successfully were in Chesapeake, Great Bridge Middle School, Greenbrier Middle School, Oscar Smith Middle School. In Norfolk, the Academy for Discovery at Lakewood and Bayview Elementary School. In Prince William County, Parkside Middle School. In Spotsylvania County, Wilderness Elementary School. In Stafford County, Hampton Oaks, Rock Hill, and Widewater Elementary Schools. In Virginia Beach, Arrowhead Elementary School, Corporate Landing Middle School, Green Run Collegiate, Lynn Haven Middle School, North Landing Elementary, Ocean Lakes Elementary, Pembroke Elementary, and Princess Anne Middle School. In York County, York Elementary and Grafton Middle, and one private school, Brown Academy, out of Alexandria, Virginia. Before we go into discussion, is there a motion to approve the addition of these schools as presented?
Motion to approve.
We have a motion to approve. Is there a second? Second. We have a second. Before we vote, any discussion, members of the council?
Just a quick note that I'll be abstaining since some of my schools are represented on that list, but I do want to thank the leadership in Virginia Beach, and particularly I want to thank Amanda, who's in the audience, and her team, who really supported and helped our schools revisit those applications.
Yeah, absolutely. And I will say, having reviewed some of these with Mr. Dunham, we did get great feedback on the appeals, and so these are highly qualifying schools. With no other discussion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? And abstention? Dr. Spence, thank you. And so, again, thank you all so much. Congratulations to those schools that have received the Purple Star designation. For anyone watching or anyone in the audience, if you have celebrations planned, as always, the council always looks forward to receiving invites, and we try to attend at least a few of those when we can make it. The next up, I'm actually going to turn this over to Dan. This will be an action item, but during our previous meeting, Dr. Baylor wished to discuss making a change to the Purple Star designation application timetable. It was proposed that we consider moving the application window to early spring so that schools who worked on the program could be recognized in April, the month of the military child. I don't know, Dan, if you have anything else to add to that, but we wanted to open the floor for discussion on that, and then we'll take a motion from the council if we wish to move it. Dr. Baylor, would you like to?
Yes, thank you. I actually would like to withdraw my proposal for changing it. I think that I agree with Ms. McAuliffe's suggestion that we seize every opportunity to recognize our military-connected youth. And our celebration this year around the Purple Star Award was so robust and such a strong recognition that I think it's a great opportunity to have multiple times in the calendar year. And I think as the Purple Star criteria and the meaningfulness of it becomes known across the school division, schools will be able to have their application prepared in time for a fall consideration. So thank you for entertaining the suggestion that I brought forward from some of our schools that were concerned about the tight turnaround. I think we can work with it. Our SLOs have been super supportive. So I no longer really support that.
Great. Any other thoughts, or Mr. Dunham?
So I just wanted to add that I've received a number of calls since the application deadline has passed just for technical assistance. And so there is an uptick on people just wanting to get their ducks in a row before the next application opens. You all received information regarding the modules. Those are online. The request has been sent to our webmaster to get those up on my site. And so those are going to be available as soon as I would hope by the end of this month. And so that's great. We're making progress. On another note, we've had a change in vendor for the coins, and so there's a delay in those awards getting out to the schools. They were all notified, but the award materials haven't been sent. I do have some, Dr. Spence, if you're willing to take them back, I can pass along those to you if you'd like to meet with me afterwards today. That's it.
Great. Well, we will let that item die for lack of a motion. Going. Great. Thank you, Dr. Baylor. Next, we're going to turn to our military student family specialist update. The main purpose of our meeting today, we added a meeting in December at the request of the council to discuss potential legislation. So I know First Lady McAuliffe will be joining us in a moment. We'll wait till as long as possible on that. But Dan, if you can do the other updates, and then should we wrap those up, we'll move into the legislative piece.
Sure. So, just as I normally do, Kevin, you can move the slide forward for me. That'd be great. Before I begin, I want to let you all know that we're going to see the departure of Mr. John Hammer. So, John, can you come up for a minute?
John was like, I am.
Where am I going? Stand right beside me. So, have you all had the pleasure of meeting Mr. Hammer? He has been committed to serving military families in the country for many years. How many years have total?
10 years as a SLO.
10 years as a SLO, but prior to that, you were military, correct?
That's correct.
So
50 years.
So that's over 60 years of service to this nation and the military community. So it's with a sad heart that I see him go. He's excellent at what he does. I'm sure you can attest to that, Dr. Spence. And so he's leaving for greener pastures, hopefully. And,
Golf course.
and so we hate
After
to
the
see
job jars are done.
we hate to see him go, but I want to give you an opportunity to say, your goodbyes to John, and thanks. You're welcome. Thank you for your service. Yeah, appreciate it. Well, and I actually know
Dan,
his
if we can just
replacement.
Give
Go
the
ahead.
council a moment just to say a few words to Mr. Hammer and further learn more about his golf skills. But on behalf of the council, and then certainly we'll open it up to any council member, we just want to thank you for your service to schools and to military children and to military families, and just know that the work is appreciated, and it takes all of us to maximize the potential of every child, and we really appreciate your service. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, if I could just add on, since John directly supports students of Virginia Beach, I want to thank you for your service to the children of our city, and know how much we have valued our partnership with you and the support you've given to us as families have transitioned in and out through the Oceana station. So thank you so much for everything you do, John. We appreciate you.
Thank you, Dr. Spence.
I'm sorry I missed your lunch yesterday.
I got your plaque.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Hammer. Appreciate it. Dan, you said we now know his replacement?
And
We
so
should
do
say
you.
successor. We can never replace him.
Right. His successor is Debbie Patch. So Debbie Patch will be stepping down as regional school liaison officer for Navy Mid-Atlantic, and will be assuming the role as NAS school liaison officer.
Congratulations. Yeah.
We do not yet know her replacement, but hopefully we'll get to know that individual soon, and I can introduce him to you at the next council meeting. All right. Kevin, moving forward. So these are, as I always do, kind of give you a review of what I have encountered related specifically to compact law. And so these are the cases. The two cases concerning course placement. Those are usually students who need assistance in getting into certain courses. And I think out of these two cases, actually the calls came for technical assistance from schools. Graduation waiver requirements. There have been 3 cases, one from a parent for assistance with that, and 2 from schools needing technical assistance. The one that is from the parent is actually not really a military connected child, but a military connected civilian student, right? And so, hey, and so we, we're working through that case. This family had gone overseas with a student who hadn't satisfied her her diploma for special education, and we're trying to help get her goals met so that she can get a diploma from Virginia while her parents are serving overseas and assisting the military mission there. We've had a couple of questions concerning exit exams with 3 cases. In all of those cases, unfortunately, there's nothing we could have done for those families. The verified credit requirements are as they are, and we couldn't accept the substitute test that those students had taken. I think one was a part test in mathematics, and we just don't recognize that as being to satisfy our verified credit requirements, and so weren't able to do anything for those particular families. So, and the last one was on the eligibility of transfer and enrollment. We just had a case where the school had called me wanting some technical assistance in terms of whether they were actually able to go ahead and use the unofficial document in terms of enrollment, and needing some technical guidance on that. Moving forward, Kevin. So these are things that are notable outside of the compact that I've dealt with recently through my office. So I've gotten 2 or 3 calls from spouses concerning licensure and wanting to work in Virginia and wanting to know about licensure reciprocity. And I was happy to put them in contact with our licensure folks, but also give them information about how we are supportive of that and that reciprocity and how they can go about getting that done. Purple Star designation, I mentioned this earlier. Well, I'm getting a lot of calls from schools just wanting technical assistance on Purple Star. They're after it, and they want to make sure they're doing it right so that they can receive the award next year. Special education linkage also has been a great uptick, and that's because I think word is getting out, that we have now very strong relationships with our EFMP case managers, and we're getting a lot of calls when families come into their office. While the family's in the office, they're calling me and they're asking for technical assistance. And in most cases, I'm just putting them in contact with folks who really are well equipped to assist them. And so that seems to be working. And I hope to get more calls, because I think that's a very important aspect of what I do. And so I hope to be there for those families. All right, Kevin, moving forward. These are things that are in development. I'm happy to report, with the help of Secretary Hopkins, we were able, and Dr. Spence, were able to get 2 project search sites going here in the state of Virginia. So one will be at Fort Belvoir, and the other one will be there at NSA Oceana. Is that correct? And so I'm very pleased about that, and hopefully we can see that expand even in the future to other military installations around the Commonwealth, because we know that that's beneficial to students with special needs, especially as they move into that transition piece of their life. And so I think the military installation is a great opportunity for them. Yes.
Do you think people know what Project Search is?
We talked about it last time.
We did a presentation on it last.
Yep. The Governor's Suicide Prevention Challenge, they've asked me to be on that work group. And from that, I began to work with ideas of how we can maybe get behind an effort for the youth, right, in terms of getting them prepared to be a part of the suicide prevention program across the Commonwealth. And so I had a discussion with the Director of Student Services for York County Public Schools, who also has responsibility of being the military liaison. And so we're going to pilot York County Public schools' peer transition teams and get them to meet with the National Guard and Reserve Youth Council in Williamsburg in May. And they're going to have a discussion about mental health and wellness. The folks are going to come in and help facilitate that are part of the community service boards there in York County. And so if that generates some great things, we hope to replicate that in other regions around the state and have similar conversations with teams about how they can bring back ideas to promote mental health wellness and suicide prevention efforts inside their school communities and abroad. The next thing is the first annual Virginia Military Signing Day. You guys have heard me talk about that in a couple of meetings. We actually now have a date. So it's going to be May the 12th around the Commonwealth, and we'll begin to get those solicitations out, Dr. James, as soon as we come back from the holidays. We'll get that out to the schools along with a flyer, letting them know to maybe host some of these kinds of things. And our Community Solutions has been doing it for quite some time. They're a not-for-profit organization around the nation that does a really good job of coordinating these signing days. So I would encourage schools to maybe partner with them. I think we're going to be, I hope to attend the event that we're going to have here locally at the War Memorial in Richmond, sort of kick it all off. And so we'll be working on that. Now, of course, when those the dates and times for that event occur, I'll make sure the council knows about it, and you would be more than welcome to attend either this event or any other events that might be in your local communities.
And essentially, also want to thank Secretary Hopkins for this. As you know, we have many events at schools where students sign their letter of intent to attend college for sports. It's become popular to do signing days for kids that sign with companies in career and technical education fields. And certainly, we want to honor those students that have chosen to give service to the military. And so, whereas the actual day they sign, Captain Franzen, I'm sure, is a variety of dates. We will celebrate students on one day throughout the Commonwealth, and excited to do so.
Yes, indeed. All right, Kevin, can you move forward, please? The slide. Thank you. So the next thing is, as part of that suicide prevention effort, I have developed or got permission really to utilize, and you have the flyers in front of you, this I Serve 2 card. This was a card that was designed by Lieutenant Colonel in the Air Force, who actually is a doctor of nursing down in South Florida, and a retired general in the Army, also in the nursing corps. The intent of this card is to get it in front of service providers so that they can ask questions that might be, important for them to know about when engaging with military connected students and or their families. It really kind of highlights the what a child might be experiencing when they're going through deployment or transition, and how they might be vulnerable, and then points them to resources to support them. We know that children are most vulnerable for stress and needing to develop strong coping skills when they're in a period of transition or when their families are experiencing deployment. And so the nurses have developed this card and feel that this is a best practice. And I think that the Military Medical Center for Excellence has looked at this document and has given it a stamp of approval and have talked about this in research about how this could be very impactful. We went back to the developers of this card and asked them if we could use it, and then if we could make some changes to it so that we can create a Virginia edition. And that's what you see in front of you. Our graphic designer, who unfortunately is retiring, Misty, developed that I Serve 2 logo. When we sent this back to the developers of this card and we showed them the Virginia edition, they were extremely excited. They want to use the logo and keep the logo for their own and use it on future endeavors. And Virginia will be the first state to send this card out across their educational communities. I'm working with, like I said, the governor's work group for suicide prevention. And I think there's been discussion about the Pediatrics Association also taking this card and distributing it to their service care providers as well. So I'm very excited about having been a part of that discussion and about this opportunity, the opportunity to get the peer transition teams together with the National Guard and Reserve Council to talk about efforts for youth. Any questions about the card in particular? Secretary Hopkins, do you have anything to add about that?
No, I don't, for sure.
So the intention, I guess, would be to provide this to healthcare providers, correct?
That's correct.
And can other folks have, use it? For example, can we put it on our website?
We certainly can, and we'll, again, I'm going to be working with Dr. Lane to send out the SUPES memo on this card and suicide prevention in general. I think that we have some changes coming to our website, and so there might be an agency-wide communication about all the changes concerning suicide prevention. The intent, Dr. Spence, is for this particular card to be put in the hands of the counselors, your school psychologists, school social workers, and your school administrators. And they can put it, and the reason why we turned it into a flyer, we felt like having it up on the board is a lot better than having it as a card that you have to look at both sides. This way you can see everything all at once. So, thank you. Okay, Kevin can move forward. All right, so at the, in October, I went to the Military Children's Compact National Business Meeting, and there, really one of the main things that was on the table for discussion was the establishment of a task force by the executive committee and other members, other commissioners, to investigate the transitional needs of military students whose parents served in the National Guard and our reserve forces. We know that these families these children are experiencing some transitional challenges, and sometimes these transitional challenges are occurring when the family is not necessarily activated under Title 10 orders. They could be activated under state orders, or they could be, serving in the National Guard and Reserve, and that's their full-time position, and they're being, shared between states or moved within the state. And that is a direct result of the needs of the military, if you will, of the National Guard or the reserves. And so they're not able to take advantage of some of the flexibilities offered by the compact in those particular cases. And so this has come to the attention of the executive office, and so they are establishing a task force. Now, what's interesting about this is that the possible impact for the state is that there would be a change in our code, in our Interstate Compact Code, and that they would they redefine eligibility so that they would remove that requirement that National Guard and Reserve only be allowed to access the provisions of the compact when they're under Title 10 orders. Similar to what I talked to you guys about before when I said we should investigate whether or not we put in a separate place in a code to provide an expansion of compact provisions for federal employees and or civilian personnel who work in support of the military mission. Had that made its way into legislation for the next General Assembly session, and I don't know if it will or won't at this point because I think they're still coming in. We could be ahead of this a little bit for that group and for other groups that possibly down the road I see as someday needing the same kind of assistance. The last thing I'll mention is I'm very happy to report that in 2022, they're all coming here. They're all coming to the great state of Virginia. Now, where I will hold it, I don't know. So I'm looking for ideas. But the National Business Annual Business Meeting is coming to the great state of Virginia, and I look forward to that. I think we can do something pretty special for them that they can't do in other states just because we have so much wealth of history here. So looking forward to that.
Thank you.
Any questions about that in particular? No.
And are you thinking of doing that in Northern Virginia or in Richmond?
I
Or
think
in
Northern Virginia gets
Tidewater.
enough attention. I'd like to do something
Yeah.
in Central Virginia.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. I'm leaning towards Central Virginia.
Okay.
Yeah, I am. All right. Kevin, moving on.
Delegate Thomas, Chair.
I was
Yeah.
just going to say, I'm not sure how many people you're trying to accommodate, but as you know, I sit on the War Memorial, and there's a huge expansion that is going to be opening, knock on wood, any day.
Yeah.
And that big assembly area in the new wing, if they open that, it's several hundred people that can be accommodated there. So
Right.
just something to keep in mind.
Okay. Typical format is they all come together in a very large space. When you think about all 50 states are represented and their people, which sit out around the outside of the table. So it's a big horseshoe like this, but very large. And then there's breakout sessions for other discussions that happen in 2 days, and then it's over with. And usually it's in a hotel, but certainly want to make sure it's a little unique and different in Virginia. So I'm open to all ideas at this point. All right. So I mentioned that, the General Assembly and the posting of bills is coming in every day. And so 2 days ago, and this is why it didn't make it on the agenda, these two bills were posted and so the public could view them, and they impact the council membership directly. The first one is Senate Bill 41, and it comes from Senator DeStiff. Is that how you say it? DeStiff. And so this basically is asking that a member of the membership of the council include a military spouse. Is that correct? No, this was the one for Military Student Process Action Team. So the member needs to be also a member of the Military Student Process Action Team. So there'd be a member of the Process Action Team and also a member of the council. Now, the Military Student Process Action Team was sort of moved into being my advisory council. They were just a work group that got together for the purpose of investigating temporary housing. Remember that? Then I saw the wisdom of what they did in Fairfax County of having a group of folks, stakeholders, together to advise on policy and procedures in Fairfax County that relate to military families. I thought it was important for me to have a regular conversation with folks who are out in the field, who come from the schools, who are military spouses, who represent military commands, school liaison officers. I have EFMPs on it, and we have members of the Virginia Department of Education. And we do meet on 3 or 4 times a year. And this is the same panel that reviews your Purple Star designation and comes up with a list for you to vote on. So personally, I see there could be a potential conflict if a member of the MISPAT team also is on the council, in that there could be times, and there never has been, but there could be times when the council may when the MISPAT may want to talk about things that would require the council to sort of take care of, that might be sensitive, and they might refrain from, giving their opinion if they know a member of the council is, sitting on the advisory panel. That's just my concern. So that's one of them.
And certainly we'll work through this with the policy team. The council is typically appointed by the governor, so we may want to work with Senator DeStiff to change that last little bit.
Then the next one, Kevin, if you could move forward, please, is Senate Bill 47, and that's Senator Spruill. And this one asked that a member of the council be a military spouse or a parent of a military child. Right.
Couple times.
Yes, we have that. And since I've been, coordinating council membership, we've always had somebody who was a parent of a military child on the council. So.
I think I would add the word guardian as well, because
We'll work with Senator Spruill on that.
Okay. So those are the two. I don't see, so far, I haven't seen any about expanding contract provisions for federal or civil employees. So.
Well, Dan, I think that that was really the one topic the council considered over the past year, and maybe for everyone's benefit, a reminder of what some of the expansions that we may want to consider are, and then I don't know that the council has ever taken positions on legislation, but we can certainly forward a recommendation for legislation that's not been filed. So do you want to describe the Title 50 piece?
Sure. So we do know that there are individuals in the state of Virginia who endure multiple transitions, just like military families. And these are folks who work to support the national security interest of the nation. These are folks who might work for the State Department, or they might serve to support military missions abroad and in a medical capacity or something of that nature. They have to move their families just as often as military families, and some of them are actually in harm's way, just like military folks are in harm's way. And so we do know that in the Northern Virginia area in particular, there are large numbers of families who are enduring this transition day in and day out. And I have gotten many calls since coming on board to see if the compact could assist these families with their transition. Some of them are high school courses that they need assistance with or protections for, and some of them are kindergarten enrollment issues or concerns that if they had compact provisions that would have been supportive of that family. And so this is something that I feel will assist those folks. We did get, I guess, some data, and if I recall, I think we're close to 30,000, I think, in the Northern Virginia area, which it could support. We didn't really kind of do a deep dive in that because it was very hard to get the numbers of the number of families that would be impacted statewide, but I think we were close to 30,000, if I recall. I could go back and look and report later to you all. Is that?
Yeah, thank you. And so, council members, I think that whereas I cannot speak in my role as superintendent of public instruction of what is being considered by the governor through our confidential legislative process, what I can say is that you could authorize me as chair or Dan as our liaison to send a letter to the governor and the speaker and the head of the Senate to consider legislation to expand the provisions of the compact to folks covered under Title 50. I hope that your motion would have some leeway to allow us to draft that such that we wouldn't have to bring it back, so that we could get that out in front of session. But don't want to assume that the council supports that. But that would be my hope, that should you support these expansions, that we would authorize a letter. I think that's probably the best practice for the council at this point, rather than as some boards and others will do, as seek patrons and the such. I don't know that we have taken on that role in the past. Thoughts?
I 100% support it and would like to see us move forward.
Yeah, this was something we talked about, I guess it was last year now. And one of the concerns that I had was the number of people potentially impacted and how broadly we'd expand it. And my understanding is that it's not a very broad, or it's not a great number of individuals impacted. And so I don't know that there'd be any issue with supporting this. Certainly I can't say that on behalf of the administration, but I see no harm in the council making that recommendation to the administration.
Okay, well, is there a motion to authorize the chair of the council to submit a letter to the General Assembly and the governor?
May I, before a motion, may I just ask another question?
Yes, sir.
Apologies. And this may have been discussed before, and I apologize if it was, and I don't have that information, but I'm not sure, to the secretary's point, like exactly who we're talking about. I mean, other than people who may be involved in the nation's defense that aren't military. So could we get a better description of who we're talking about?
We were talking about folks who worked possibly for NSA or the FBI or DOD, other federal agencies who, because of their occupations, tend to travel or move around every bit as much as military personnel.
And Dan, we would probably capture that as folks that are covered under Title 50 orders. Isn't that how it is explained?
Right. Yeah, I think it's really Title 22 and Title 50. It's basically just Congress's definition of national security. If those folks activated for the national security interest.
So no, and I apologize, Dr. Smith. We had Title 22 and Title 50 in front of us when we discussed it earlier in the year, but it was essentially folks stationed overseas that are working on behalf of national security.
Okay, thank you.
And so is there a motion?
So moved.
Delegate Thomas, seconded by Senator Locke. All in favor?
Aye.
And any opposed? Any abstaining? Great. Well, we will certainly get that letter out to you before we submit it, just in case there are any concerns in the drafting. But we'll have that to the governor and the General Assembly in advance of session. Are there other matters of legislation that members of the council would like to discuss?
Dr. Lane, I just wanted to add to the earlier question that you had about advocacy from the council in the General Assembly, and I can speak to the Military Child Identifier Bill, which we robustly supported from this council, and we had then Secretary Harvey and myself and actively working to advocate for that measure, which I think the council would agree has served and to inform us as a Commonwealth and a council as we move forward very well. So I, for one, would be happy to be a part of any, and we also have others, I'm sure from the governor's office, if this is something that the governor agrees to, that would be happy to take this up with, as well as our members. So thank you, our members of the council that are legislative. Thank
Great.
you.
Certainly. Certainly. Thank you. And thank you for letting me know that history. That was great. Any other matters that the council would like to consider? I think that was the big one.
Is there anything from
Can
the
I get back to
governor's
the-
office, Secretary, related to military child education that you know of that we're not ready?
Not from the governor's office that I'm aware of, certainly not from the secretariat at this time.
Well, I would like to take a moment to commend the governor for the big K-12 package that's been announced. So thank
I
you.
would like a piece of that, but, you know.
All right, Kevin, go back to the agenda.
Well, before we head to public comment, thank you, Ms. McAuliffe, for the comment. And certainly, certainly, if anyone in the audience is interested in the governor's historic proposal for K-12 and a $1.2 billion investment, we can fill in on details on that and look forward to the General Assembly session. But before we close with official remarks, we do now open it up for public comment. And so at this time, I invite comment from the public. The floor is open for any members of the public who wish to address the council. Do we have anyone that would like to come forward? Yes, ma'am. Please come up and share your name with the council.
Good morning. My name is Amanda Yoder. I work in Virginia Beach City Public Schools as the military counselor, one of two. I just wanted to echo the sentiments and support the council and add a few more things to consider with regards to expanding to include Title 22 and Title 50 personnel. We have, I think, as long as they are held to given the same safeguards and the same opportunities that we give to active duty right now, that would be a huge support. We have NCIS agents afloat. We have NCIS agents abroad currently who have come up multiple times with preventative health personnel, all of which don't fall under any of the protections right now. And we've had some really big challenges with whether their families go with them, whether their families have to move to another state and then return when they come back, or whether there's a power of attorney situation while they're gone. And so just some other perspectives to add to that I think that's a very needed piece of legislation. So thank you.
Any others? Okay, at this time, we'll close public comment. We now will open it up to the council before closing remarks and potential closed session for open discussion. Certainly, we heard public comment. Dan, is there anything you'd like to share about that?
No, there's nothing, sir.
Okay, thank you. Any open discussion from the council or anything you'd like to share? Great. Well, with that, no matter what holiday you celebrate, I hope that everyone has a great holiday season, and we'll see you soon in the new year. I know we have plans for further meetings of council and lunches with military families as we have done in the past. But mostly, I just want to thank the members of the council and those that attend these meetings regularly for your support of the children of the Commonwealth, but especially our military children who do go through difficult transitions, and think about them during this holiday season, especially if some of their parents are away. That can be certainly a difficult time. So thank you all for attending. Dan, do we have need for a closed session?
We always have to present the military student.
Great. Okay, then we will. I will take a motion to enter into closed session. The military student identified data is not a public record. On behalf of this council, I'll be requesting the data to be shared with each council member so that we are knowledgeable about the scope of military-connected children in our state, and the council can perform its duties in a way that best serves the children of our Commonwealth. In order to do so, I move the Virginia Council on the Interstate Compact on Educational Opportunity for Military Children, hereafter referred to as the Virginia Council, convene in closed session pursuant to Section 2.23711A2 of the Code of Virginia to discuss matters that would involve the disclosure of scholastic records of Virginia students and the disclosure of data collected from the identification of uniformed services connected students, which is prohibited by Section 22.1-287.04D. So per that, I made a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Great. We are now in closed session. Thank you, our guests, for joining us, and please have a safe and restful holiday. Kevin, thank you. I move that the Virginia Council adopt a resolution certifying to the best of each member's knowledge only public matters lawfully exempted from voting meeting requirements were discussed in the closed meeting which this certification resolution applies, and only such public business matters as were identified in the motion convened in the closed session were heard, discussed, or considered by the council. In accordance with the Virginia Freedom of Information Act, there should be a roll call vote on the resolution. All in favor of adopting the resolution, vote aye. All opposed, vote nay. Dr. Spence?
Aye.
Aye or nay? Mr. Williams?
Aye.
Dr. Baylor? First Lady McAuliffe?
Aye.
Aye. Senator Locke?
Aye.
Secretary Hopkins? Delegate Thomas?
Aye.
Captain Franzen?
Aye.
All right, motion approves. Thank you all so much for joining us this month. With that, we are adjourned.